I'm a little old lady librarian at heart. This is looking good. Do you like my new cardigan? I got another one. I have one in grey, but I forced my dad to drive me back to the store yesterday, and I bought 3 more because cardigan is life. I'm a little old lady librarian at heart. I was about to say barbarian, but then my mind caught up with my mouth and was like, no, it's not barbarian, it's librarian. No! No! My chocolate! Wait, is it dripping? Almost. I don't have any paper. This is an R-rated video. Children, look away. You know, life just doesn't want me to succeed. I was gonna do a cozy little, you know, like I see this girl do all the time. She sits with her little cup of tea. I probably have cream everywhere. With a little cup of tea, and she talks about books, and I can't remember what her handle is right now, but she's so cute, and I was like, I want to do that for my wrap-ups, but I'm not a tea girly, and I'm not a coffee girly, so it's like hot chocolate, because I'm a child, I'm a little child, but I can't even do that correctly, so I'm giving up. Tastes really good though. Oh, I have the holiday chocolate. Is that from The Holiday? No, that's from Sex and the City, isn't it? There's also hair everywhere. I am shedding. It's my monthly shed. I never use lip gloss for this exact reason. There's hair in my lip gloss. You know, I was trying to look pretty, and then that just, you know, went downhill immediately. Just crashed and burned. Anyway, let's gather ourselves. Take a breath. It's cute with that button. I'm keeping it buttoned. Anyway. Hello my loves. It is officially the 1st of March, which means that it is time for my very first, everything's my first because it's a new channel, very first monthly wrap up and next month's hopefuls. I was thinking of combining them because otherwise, like, I don't have that many hopefuls on my TBR because I'm always like, ooh, and then there's that, and ooh, and then there's that, and I'm just torn in 1,000 different ways every month where I'm like, I want to keep to my TBR, but at the same time that book came out, or oh, I discovered this one, or someone recommended, Larry, Emmy, Bailey, Laura recommended something really good, and I'm like, oh, I want to pick that up now immediately because I can't think about another book if I don't get my hands on that book, which is why I ordered the favorites yesterday. But that is an entirely different conversation, and I'm speaking way too quickly, so let's sit up and listen. That's the wrong way around. Sit down and listen up. Yeah, that, okay, let's not. So, English is not my first language. This is my February, so saying it without the R makes you sound like a little child, which I am, but still. February wrap-up. This is my February wrap-up, and since I am not a modern person and I am an old librarian at heart, I am analog. Is that how you use that word, analog? What does analog mean? I've heard someone say it and I thought that, oh, I can use that, but I don't know what it means. Anyway, this is my reading journal, by the way. I just, you know, was starting to flip through something that had was of no consequence whatsoever. If you want a like reading journal video where I go through how I do my reading journal, I can do that, but just, you know, let me know, because not a lot of people want that, I think, but still, if one person wants it, I'm gonna do it because I love my reading journal. But I have every single book that I have read in this month on this page, and let's see how many I actually read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I read 12. I'm listening to the 13th, but since I'm going to be finishing listening to it in just stirring my tea, because I'm not a wizard who can sit and do that. That would be really cool. I wish I could sit from here and stir my tea by just doing this, but then my hot chocolate, but then everyone would be like, what the hell is she doing? And then I could lift the cup up and show you, and everyone would be like, oh, she's a wizard, or a witch. Yeah, did I read 13? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12! I can't do maths. I don't have, the left side of my brain doesn't exist. It just doesn't work. It's just decorative. I brought 3 books with me to my mum's, and that pile went from 3 to this. 'Cause I can see you. I love Taylor. The first book that I read in February is, I'm like Benedict Cumberbatch with the word penguin.
Penguins. Crested penguins. Parent penguin heading home.
The first book that I read in February was a book that I read for a different video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It was for the book recommendations video. And that was Larry's recommendation for the fans, which I read on my Kindle, so it's gonna pop in here somewhere because I am a technical person who can do that. It was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, because since I didn't like have it physically, I couldn't, you know, check the thickness of the book, which we love a thick book, but for a romance and what I thought was going to be like a light-hearted, fun, modern, spicy romance, I was expecting it to be like around 300 pages, and instead it was more like, it's somewhere between 500 and 700. On my Kindle it said that it was 700, but I don't know how many pages it is in physical form. But it was thick, it was long, it was good though. Like, I had a great time, and it went from what I thought it was going to be, like a fun, light-hearted, spicy, dramatic romance book, to something much, much deeper, which I really enjoyed, and I really, really liked the way that they built that. Like, this was a new author for me, and she wrote very, very well. I think her name is Nyla K. I don't know. Let's check. Nyla K. I was... See? My memory. I'm not that fish from Finding Nemo yet. Whatever her name is. The Ellen DeGeneres one.
Excuse me! Woo!
I can remember some things. And I ended up giving for the fans 4.5 stars. So 4.5. It could have been a 5-star. I made it a 5-star prediction. I did. If you watch that other video, you will see me go from this is a 5-star prediction to why I rated it 4.5. But it was just, towards the end, it became a bit too drawn out, which made some parts a bit repetitive just because it was that long. So I do think if it had been like shortened down a little bit, it would have definitely been a 5-star, because then that repetitive feeling wouldn't have occurred in me. So the first book was for the fans. Give it 4. I forget everything about, like, what are words? The second I open my camera and open my mouth, I'm like, what are words? What have I done? What is a book? How do you turn a page? I don't know. Next up, we have my first physical read for February, and also one of my 5-star reads. And I have already recommended this book to a friend, and she loved it, and I'm sorry, Miriam, but also you're welcome, because this is an experience that everyone should have, and that, which way is the best? This is the best. A Language of Dragons. We love dragons. I love dragons. I am obsessed with dragons. I always have been. I had a dragon pet when I was a kid, not an actual pet, but you know, a stuffed animal dragon that I slept with, and like, not in a sexual way, but in a child hugging her, you know, her stuffed animal way. And it was like long and floppy because it didn't have a spine or bones, obviously, because it's a stuffed animal. So I could like twist it around my entire body, and I loved that thing. It was green. It was green and red, and I loved it. It was stunning. Anyway, so this was my first 5-star read of February, and it is amazing. And it is actually going to be the best book that I read in February. It's taken that spot. It's the winner of the monthly battle, the Hunger Books, the Games of Hunger Books. Hello? The Hunger Games, but book version. Because the books I read fight it out every month, and then in the end of the year I will have my 12 favorites, and then those 12 will have to fight it out for 1, 2, 3, you know? Gold, bronze, silver and bronze, that's the way. If you liked Divine Rivals, or if you like anything like dark academia, high stakes, like an academic vibe but with dragons, and like a normal society but in a historical fiction, but there are fantasy elements like the fact that dragons are living among the normal people, and it's political intrigues, and there's a subplot of a romance that is just absolutely amazing and will have you by the balls or the throat, whichever you prefer. I'm gonna start crying. Not because I'm thinking about the ending of this book, which I won't even mention, partly because this is a spoiler-free video, but also because if I even think about the ending of that book, I am going to tear up. So if you're going to read this, have tissues nearby, because you're going to need them, and not for the fun reason, for the other reason, for the crying reason. So, but this is so good. Like, if you're going to read one book from this video, let it be this one. Like, A Language of Dragons is absolutely amazing. It's well written, it is well structured, the world building is really impressive. She has created multiple new languages, which is so intriguing. The characters have amazing arcs. You get so invested in the characters and in the storyline and in the plot points and the twists and turns. It's just, it has everything. It is absolutely amazing. Next up in my little list is a new release that was released in February, I think, or at the end of January. No, it was released in February, which is a book that was released by one of my favorite authors of all time. I have a tattoo for one of her books, a little chess piece, and I think if you know, you know, you're already going to know which author I'm talking about and which book I'm talking about, because it's apparently become controversial on BookTok, which I did not see coming, and I did not understand why, but we're going to talk about that, but that is Deep End. And I read 2 new 5 stars this month, and this was the second one. So we're doing my 5-star reads back to back early in this video, but this was so good. Like, I wish that I had the kinds of sexual experiences like Lucas and Scarlett did, or like Scarlett had with Lucas in this, because my relationship to sex would have been so much healthier. And you know, everyone was like, oh, this is going to be super spicy because Ali has said that it's about kink, and then some people were like, it's not spicy enough, and then others read it and were like, oh, this is gross, this is too spicy, why is it so spicy? When there is a literal warning at the beginning of the book where Ali Hazelwood is telling you, the reader, that beware, going into this, it's an exploration of kink, it's going to have spice. Flashing red lights for anyone who doesn't want to read spicy books. I just don't understand the controversy. I don't. Like, these are people in college, they're like 20 something, 21, 22, somewhere like that, and people are like, oh, it wasn't kinky enough. Well, no shit. They're young adults, they're exploring their sexuality and their sensuality, and they are doing it in a safe and healthy way with each other, a way that is far more healthier than most 21 and 22-year-olds. I'm 23 years old. No one acts like this. I hope people do, but not anyone that I have interacted with in a I don't have the best sexual experiences either, which is why I live vicariously through people in books, because I'm scared. I don't. But we're not going to talk about my trauma. We're going to talk about Scarlett's, and Scarlett is amazing. I loved the way that there were complexities with the characters, because as I said, these are people in college. They are 21 and 22 years old. I know when I was just a couple of years younger than them, I was a part of toxic friendships, partly because I had been a loner and bullied and an outsider before, and then this group of girls were going to take me in, and they, you know, it was this kind of girl friendship that you always saw in the movies. And as we know, Scarlett has like one friend in the beginning of this book, and then there's a swimming team, but she's still always kind of on the outside of them too. And then there's this girl who becomes really, really nice to her and all of that, and they become really close friends. And so I understand all of the, you know, difficulties and why Scarlett kept being friends with someone who may or may not be a great friend. because I've been there, and it's not so black and white as some people would like to make it out to be. Not relationships, whether it's romantic or friendship or platonic, that's what it's called. I thought that the spice level was just enough. The one problem that I had with this is that no Swedish man behaves the way that Lucas does. And I speak from experience because I am born and raised in Sweden. I am sitting in Sweden at this very moment. I'm on Swedish soil, so I can speak for the reality of Swedish men. When I say that, men like Lucas, don't come to Sweden if you want to find them, because they're not here. They don't exist here. And the way that Ali described that he was often speaking with a bit of a Swedish accent, the Swedish English accent isn't pretty. That's why I've tried so hard not to sound like a Swede speaking English when I speak English, because it's not pretty. No. And I just keep hearing the like, I'm from Sweden, yeah.
I am from Sweden, yes.
So I had to put the fact that he was Swedish out of my mind if I wanted to find Lucas sexy. And the names of his two brothers, I think it's two, it might be three brothers, but all of the brothers' names, thank God that she chose Lucas for his name, because the brother's name were these like really old school Swedish names, and I looked at my mum and I was like, she chose these names. There are so many Swedish names that she could have chosen that are actually pretty, but instead she chose like Olaf, like it probably wasn't, but I can't remember. I think it was Leif. I think one of them was called Leif, and I was like, Ali. No, just no. This was two young adults exploring their sexuality and sensuality and exploring kink in a healthy and safe way, where they communicated with each other in a way that I'm sure most adults do not. Like, people twice their age probably don't communicate in such a healthy way as these two young adults do. So it was a no-brainer. It was a 5-star for me. I loved it. I gobbled it down. I was obsessed. I jumped into the pool with them and I swam there happily. Oh god. That was an unfortunate placement of cream when I've just talked about kinks. The next book is another new release for February that I read and that I was really looking forward to read, which was Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey. I was skeptical but excited because I loved Fangirl Down. I picked up Fangirl Down at an airport in London when I was traveling last year in February to Canada, and I read it like on that flight, and it was so good. I loved it. I was obsessed. And then I listened to the second book because hello, hockey player, au pair, we love it, you know. It seemed like it was going to be great, and it was good. It was enjoyable. Not as good as the first book, but it was good. I think I gave that like 3.5 4 stars, and the first was probably like a 4.5. So I was excited but skeptical because step sibling romances aren't really for me, but then again I did like For the Fans, so I was like, maybe it is. Maybe For the Fans, you know, switched me over to the other side. Let's give Dream Girl Drama a chance. And I did not have a good time. I can't really do the insta-love trope, and this was like, oh, we met an hour ago, oh, I see you have issues with your family, oh, I'm going to pay for everything for you and sell my own things to pay for your things when I've known you for 2 hours, because I just have a feeling. Oh, and also I find out we're step siblings, oh, I'm still going to do that because I'm still obsessed with you even though I met you an hour ago. Like, that's just, I can't really, that coupled with the whole step sibling thing, I couldn't really do it, so I gave that 1 star. And that's really all I have to say about it. We're gonna leave that there. The next book I started reading as a physical book because I got it for Christmas in a physical book, which is The Spell Shop, because I saw it all over TikTok, and then I read the blurb and I was like, cozy. I haven't really read any like actual cozy fantasies. I've read cozy that have been cozy. I've read fantasies that have been cozy, but I haven't read like the subgenre cozy fantasy. So I was really excited going into this because it sounded really good, and I quite quickly swapped from physical to audio because I found myself getting distracted when I was reading this physically, and it probably was because it was just a bit too slow. It started very well and very intriguing, but then it kind of quickly past the probably 20% mark, it started getting being a bit slower, but I was still really enjoying the characters and the plot that was building, or the thing it was building towards. And I loved the talking plants and the like drizzle of romance that was in there as well. So I wanted to keep reading it, but I find myself putting it down if I picked it up physically. So I swapped to the audiobook, and that helped a lot. But just look at that little creature. Because apparently there are flying cats all over this island, and I read that and I was hooked. And then there's a talking plant and I was like, oh yes. And then she's a librarian and I'm like, oh god, absolutely. And there are seahorses, or not our kinds of seahorses, but horses that are in the sea. And I was like, of course, I'm a horse girl at heart, I was really hooked. So I really like Keela and a talking plant that I can't remember the name of, but he was so funny. That talking plant was the best part of this book. It was the height of comedy in this book. I adored him. And then the meek plant that showed up later, that was a cactus who understands words but can't speak herself, so she can only say Meek. And then they were like, what's your name? And she's like, Meek. And everyone's like, oh, her name is Meek. And then she's like, Meek. And that's the only thing she can say, and she is adorable. So if you want a cozy fantasy that is a bit slower, which is part of what gives it the cozy vibe, because Keela has fled the place where she lives. She has fled the vibe. She has fled the library where they have set fire to the library. The people are trying to overthrow the government or the rulers that are, and so she saves the books, as many books as she can. She and Cass, her talking plant, and they get in a boat and they go back to the island where she came from, where she hasn't been back since she and her family left. And she finds their old house and she starts to renovate it. But since magic is so controlled and only a certain type of people get to learn magic, and the government is they have an iron grip on sorcerers and magic, this island is having issues because no one's there controlling the magic or helping magical creatures along using magic, because they need that to survive. So Keela decides to start a yam shop that is a mask for her actual spell workshop that she's opening, hence the title, the spell shop. And things happen from there. This was good. I had a good time. It was cozy. I preferred listening to it. I do recommend the audiobook. I listened to it on BookBeat, I think. And I ended up giving it a solid 3 stars. This is a solid 3-star book. But if you do want a cozy fantasy read that isn't you won't sit and bawl your eyes out and feel like your heart has been ripped from your chest, language of dragons, this is for you. Ooh, next we have a book that I bought when I was in Gothenburg, book shopping, and there's a vlog from that as well, because my friend Sophia, I love you, I talk about you in every single video, but that's because you're a part of me. She recommended this to me when she read it because it's written by some of our favorite authors, by Krista and Becca Ritchie, and we love the Addicted Callaway series and the Like Us series. Sophia's the one who got me hooked onto that, pun intended. Then they wrote another series. The second book is coming out in April, I think, and I was like, it's time. It is time that I read this, and that is Dishonestly Yours. And the bar is very high with the Addicted Callaway and Like Us series, because those books they're a part of me. I have literally made them a part of me because they are onto my skin. I didn't want to have too high expectations going into this, but it was really intriguing. So these are like two families, the Graves and the Tin Rocks, that have lived together and done crime together for as long as they can remember. The main character's parents, the main character's mothers, are best friends, and they have been like, what are they called, like grifters, I think they're called, where they like, you know, trick people into giving them money by pretending to be people that they aren't. And all of their children, like, they've gotten all of their children into that. So they're like a family corporation of grifters that do this. And the two girls who are best friends, like the mothers, want to get out. Something has happened on one of the jobs that they have done, and the girls decide, we're getting the hell out of Dodge. But as they're in a motel, staying over for the night, preparing to go to a different city when they're planning on starting their life over, there's a knock on the door, and one of the girls goes to open the door, and it happens to be the other girl's brother, who is also the girl who opened the doors, like, I don't know, frenemy lover kind of thing, but they haven't been lovers, but there's some really tension and there's a past there, and it's just a lot. So this is like forced proximity. If you want longing, like if you want a man who longs and, you know, a complex relationship, there's a lot to work through before we can be together kind of thing, this is definitely for you. I had a great time. I read it quite quickly. It's relatively fast paced. It was building towards other things, so I'm really excited for the next book because we ended on a cliffhanger, you know, they literally left us hanging. I gave this a 4-star. I'm definitely picking up the second book. I'm very excited for the second book, and it's just really good. And if you like drama, like if you like the level of drama that is like Magnolia Parks, not that this is anything like Magnolia Parks, but the level of drama, they're on the same like level of drama, I would say. This is for you. Like, if you like drama, this is for you, pretty much. I could have just said that. This was also a new release, and I also read it for that Book Talk Book Recommendations video, and that is The Rose Bargain. And I love the cover on this. Like, I would have picked this up just based on the cover, but I picked this up because of a TikTok video, and I had a good time. This was sweet, but it also had intrigue and twist, and the world building was really, it was a really fun type of world building. And if you like trials and romance and kind of a bachelorette style of thing, even though it's far more painful physically, it has far higher stakes than our bachelor and bachelorettes do, then this is definitely for you. Like, I had some, you know, not issues with it, but there were some things that I wasn't vibing with, partly because it kind of felt insta-lovey, because we didn't get that many interactions between the love triangle, but it didn't really become a love triangle because there weren't that many interactions between them. But at the same, like, you know, it was just, it lacked depth for me. I still had a good time. It was still a fun, fast-paced romance fantasy read, you know? You get what I'm saying? So I ended up giving it 3.5 because it had a lot of potential. It was fun. I had a good time. There were just some parts where I was like, I don't... And it was sad because if it had had a bit more depth, the like twists and turns would have been really painful for me as a reader, because I wasn't really that invested in the characters' relationships, because they felt kind of shallow, it didn't grip me in that way. It didn't hurt, and I wanted it to hurt, so that is why it's only a 3.5. And I probably won't buy the second book, but if I find it as an audiobook, or I might get it as an ebook, which is buying it, but I won't get a physical copy of it. But in those other two cases, I might give it a chance, but I'm not like gasping for the next book, you know? I'm not like salivating for it. which I want to be salivating. I always have an audiobook in my ears. I'm always listening to an audiobook. So I've been doing a reread for the past couple of months of Throne of Glass, of that series. And so I finished Empire of Storms in February, which is the only audiobook that I finished in February, because then I started on Kingdom of Ash. But they are thick, and so the audiobooks are really long, and since I'm at my mum's I don't listen as much as I normally do, so it's taken me a bit more time. So that was the only audiobook of February. But oh my god, like, this is my 5th reread of this series, I think, and it's equally good every time. Like, you notice new things every single time, and I cry at the same spot every single time, or the same spots, because they are multiple. I mean, I am obsessed with that series. Throne of Glass is absolutely incredible, and I am going to get another Throne of Glass tattoo soon, which I will be vlogging for as well. But so that's really all I can say of Empire of Storms. Like, 1,000,000 stars. I mean 5, but if I could give it 1,000,000, I would give it 1,000,000. And if you haven't read the Throne of Glass series yet, what the hell are you doing? Like, go read it or listen to it. The audiobooks are really good as well, but there's just something about reading them physically. But if you want an epic fantasy series, it's immaculate. And we're going from, I mean, I said only 2 5-star reads in this video, but that's because I don't really count books that I've read before that have been 5 stars before, that are 5 stars again when I read them again. So it's just like when I give a 5-star to a new book that I'm reading for the first time, if that makes sense. The next book we have is Heavenly Bodies, and this is hyped on Book Talk. I'm not jumping on the hype. I didn't have a great time. It was fine. It was kind of meh. I had a couple of issues with it, with the pacing and the fact that there was barely any plot. It was just romance, and the romance wasn't that good either. So I ended up giving this 2.5 stars, because there were things that could have been good, and there were things that I felt if they had been worked through a bit more, edited a bit more, it could have been really good, and the plot had potential, and there were things that I was wanting to know more about this world, because the world building was good. There just wasn't much of it, and I wanted more of it, because that again would have given depth to the world. It was more telling us everything that happened and everything the characters were feeling and everything they were feeling towards each other, instead of showing us. And that was my issue with it. If it had showed more than told, this could have been really good. So that's why it's a 2.5. But the cover's really pretty. I read an arc, which was the New York Charm. And since that book isn't out yet, I'm not going to talk about the rating or anything like that. But if you like a sweet, fast-paced, sexy, fun romance read, the New York Charm is definitely for you, and I recommend that you pick it up when it's out. It's out sometime in March, I think. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna give you a date. Hang on. Bear with.
Bear with. Bear with.
The 18th of March. So it's coming out this month. So if you want a sweet, fun romance read with forced proximity, childhood, lovers to like enemies back to lovers again, the New York Charm is definitely for you. And then we have another new release that I have been really looking forward to, because I'm a bit slow on reading this new release, because people were talking about it on Book Talk before I got it in my mailbox. But that is First Time Caller, and not only is this cover stunning, but the inside is stunning. Like, I could not put this down. This was glued into my hands. It was absolutely amazing. And I didn't have that high hopes, because I wasn't obsessed with Love Like Farms or In the Weeds. I haven't finished that series, which after having read this one I will, because I want more from B.K. Borison. But this is the best she has written that I have read so far. It was so good. It was a radio host of a like love talk show on the radio who has lost faith in love, and a single mother who is lonely and doesn't want to get into dating, but then her daughter calls into the radio show and talks to the host and wants him to pair her mother and find someone for her mother, and her mother reluctantly agrees because she wants to get out there and find someone. She wants to find magic. And as a romance girly at heart who has lost faith in love, unless it's fictional, this hit a bit too close to home, and I teared up at multiple places because I was like, yeah, you get me, you know? So I had a great time. I highly recommend this. I ended up giving it a 4.5. And the reason that it wasn't a full 5 stars was because the twist at the end I felt was like, if you had just communicated, you know, you could have just talked to each other. Just open your mouth, you know? So that was the only reason why I took off half a point. So 4.5. I still highly recommend it. It was so good. And last but not least, another new release that I read on my Kindle. And that is The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy, which is the 3rd installment of the, I don't know what it's called, the series name, but the first one is the Garrett something, no, the Graham something, and then it's the Dixon Rule, which was also really good, much better than the Graham book, and then now the Charlie Method, which is a also kind of exploration of sexuality. And we have our main character Charlie, or Charlotte, who kind of lives a double life, and she's a part of Delta Pi, where she has to be, you know, really prim and proper, and you can't step wrong, and you have to put out this front that fits the Delta Pi house, and she's really academic and studious and, you know, into science. And then that's the Charlotte side of her. And then there's Charlie, who hooks up with football players in cars at night and only tells one person so that in case something happens, someone knows where to find her, otherwise she wouldn't be telling anyone. And Charlie, who loves to race cars and, you know, be wild and not fit herself into this tiny box. This had a lot of depth for Charlie and the 2 guys that are involved, because this is a polyamorous relationship, because threesomes, you know? And there was depth for each of the characters, which I loved, because we got to know them separately and as a unit. And it was a really fast-paced, fun, spicy romance with depth and with a plot. The only reason why I gave it 4 stars and wouldn't have been high, because it had the potential to be a 5-star, was because some of the twist towards the very end, because when I was like, oh, we're home safe, there was like, oh no, we're not. And that twist felt a little bit unnecessary, which is why I felt their story felt unfinished towards the end, but at the same time I didn't want it to be longer because it was already kind of long. So if you just ignore the last like 5%, it was really good. And that wraps up February, the reading that I did in February. This feels like a mess. I have no idea what I have said during these 45 minutes that I have been talking. Let's move into my March hopefuls, which means that we need to flip the page to March. Where is March? Where are you? March. Did a little dragon because I painted Manon and Nesta for March. So the first book on my March, not really TBR because I don't want to put pressure on myself to read them, and a book that was on my February TBR but that I didn't get to was The Rebel Witch. So The Rebel Witch has been moved to my March TBR. So that's the first one we can talk about. I am obsessed with the Crimson Moth, and The Rebel Witch came out on the 27th of February. I won't be getting it until like next week because Sweden in Amazon is not very fast, and I haven't even gotten a date yet for when they are going to be sending it to me, which is kind of depressing, but I'm hoping it will be soon. So I want to get my hands on that as soon as possible and start reading that as quickly as possible because I'm so excited for this book. The Crimson Moth had me in a chokehold. I read that in less than 24 hours. It was so freaking good. But next we have Coach by Devney Perry. Yeah, Devney Perry. Devney Perry wrote the Indigo Ridge series, right? Because I loved that series. Yeah, so Devney Perry wrote the Indigo Ridge, Juniper Hill, that series. I gobbled that series down. I read the first book and then I ordered the rest. My favorite was Juniper Hill. It was my absolute favorite out of all of those books. So I really want to read more from Devney Perry, and I love a good sports romance, which I am assuming this is. I actually don't really know anything about it. But that's why, yeah, Football Star and Single Dad. It's a single dad one. And my favorite from the Juniper Hill, that's a single mom one. So I love, I'm obsessed already. I really want to get to this quickly. Next we have a book on my Kindle. I know that Zodiac Academy is a bit controversial. Some people hate it, some people are absolutely obsessed with it. I fall into the latter category. I am obsessed with the Zodiac Academy series, especially like with Darius Acrux. He is my mans. I love him. He could burn me alive and I would be like, do it again, please. I really want to get to Valenti and Peckham's new book series. Only the first book is out, but it plays out in Solaria, the same place that Zodiac Academy and like the Ruthless Boys and the Darkmoor Penitentiary series plays out. I read all of them, love all of them. So I really want to get to that, and I have it on my Kindle. So I will be reading Never Keep, and the cover is stunning. I love the cover. I am obsessed, and I am really excited to get to reading this, because these are like authors that I'm like, you sell it, I'll buy it, I would read their grocery list. I'm very intrigued to know what they put on their grocery list. And after that we have a book that could be a hit or miss. At one point Book Talk was raving about this book. I don't really know that much about it, except that it's called Five Brothers and it's by Penelope Douglas, which means that this could be a wild ride because, well, Credence, But I love most things that Penelope Douglas have written. Like Punk, whatever it's called, Punk 57 or something like that. The Devil's Night series. Hello, I love the Devil's Night series. I listen to it every year around Halloween because how could I not? I feel like this could be a hit or miss. Like, Credence isn't the best thing that she has written. It's not what I love most from Penelope Douglas. But the title intrigues me. And all I really know is that this is about one girl and five brothers. I have no idea what else this is about. And I don't want to know because I want to go into it blind. But, you've heard of people buying it based on the cover. I bought it based on the title. And that's all I can tell you because that's all I know. Well, they share, right? I'm kind of hoping they do. We have my last, not my last physical read, but the last physical read that I have here right now, because the last one is actually on its way, but, well, it's not on its way because it's not out yet, but we'll get to that. But the last physical book is Forest of Souls. This has been on my TBR for forever, like since 2019. This has been on my TBR, and I am really excited to be reading it. I need to. It's damn time. But this, Dust Jackets, if this doesn't make you want to read Forest of Souls, I don't know what will. I know that there's something about a Spider King, and she resurrects her friend who dies, and she like brings them back as a ghost, and then she has to go do something for the Spider King, and she's a spy. That's really all I know, which is a chaotic description of this book. But I can't tell you anymore because I'm hoping to read it in March, so I don't know anything else. But that's based off of that knowledge, I bought it, and just the cover because gorgeous. Hello, she looks frightening and sexy at the same time. And then the last two books aren't out yet, but I have pre-ordered Wildside because, hello, Elsie Silver. I will read anything that you write. I'm obsessed with Elsie Silver and anything that she brings out, especially her single dads. I have seen people getting to read it before us, people having received ARCs, which I am so sad that I didn't get one. I wasn't expecting one, but still, the jealousy, the green-eyed monster creeps up on you when you see other people get it. But I can't wait. Haven't read an Elsie Silver cowboy romance? You need to. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Why? Hello? Like, what? Why would you not? I mean, save a horse, read about riding a cowboy. that's a new one, but it gets my point across. And then we're going to a book that I am terrified to read. I am excited, but I am absolutely terrified. It is going to be gut-wrenching, I just know it. I just know it. It's going to change my life forever. And that is Suzanne Collins' new book, which is Sunrise on the Reaping. And I fear we are going to get reaped and cry so much that we might never see a sunrise again. A sunrise will never look the same way again. Because whenever we see a sunrise, we're just going to be thinking about Haymitch. I'm so excited to see how she's going to be telling this story and, you know, find out more, hopefully, about Haymitch. I do want to get it from Haymitch's point of view, but I have seen some theories that we won't be getting it from Haymitch's point of view, but I don't know. I hope so. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm so excited. It's going to be traumatizing. I just know it. Like, it's Suzanne Collins. We can't expect anything else, but it's also going to give us, you know, parallels between our world and Panem, and that is what Suzanne is really, really skilled at doing. Like, she is skilled at a lot when it comes to writing, but that is one of her biggest strengths. That was my February wrap-up and my March hopefuls. I hope you guys enjoyed this book. Maybe I influenced you to put something on your never-ending TBR, which I hope I did, because I'm evil that way. And if you, as I said, pick up a book from this, let it be A Language of Dragons. Just trust me. Just trust me on that one. Give it a chance, you know? Just put your faith in me. I've got you, you know? And I'll pay your therapy bills afterwards. So that's really it. That's all I have to say. I've been blabbing for a long time. I don't have any words left. So I'm just gonna go. Bye!